Yes, of course.
On white hair, would you still pre-lighten?
I would. This is a fantastic question, and I'm so glad you asked it. So, on white hair, on naturally white grey hair, would you still pre-lighten before you do a vivid? I absolutely would, and that's a really common one, and it goes for natural blonde as well. So natural hair, it's all to do with the cuticle. So it's not just necessarily that it has to be a light colour and appear like a light colour. It's more so what's the cuticle doing. I'm going to draw a diagram. I knew I had this here for a reason. Okay, so I'm just going to trace this because it's a little bit dark. Because I'm going to... Come on, blue. I like diagrams. Yeah, I'm sorry, that's the best. All right, so we'll leave this. So this is an example of the bleached hair. So the cuticle is rough, the hair is damaged, it's screaming out for moisture because it's so dry. These are conditioner base, so the hair just drinks it up and goes, oh yes, give me nourishment, and it soaks in that colour as well. When we have healthy hair, the cuticles, oh my goodness, this is like an ET finger. You're going to have to, I think you understand what I'm trying to get the point across, but with natural hair that hasn't been bleached and pre-lightened, the cuticle is much more shut, it's tight, and what will happen is because these are like a stain, they won't be able to wrap around like that. They'll only be able to really stay like on the outside, like kind of the opposite of what I was explaining. And they won't go as bright, they won't last as long, and they'll usually just slip off the cuticle. Because you know, natural white hair, it almost feels like fake hair, like synthetic plastic hair. Like if you go like that cuticle is so tightly shut, especially with natural grey hair, it's like even more tightly shut. So yes, that is a common one. A lot of clients of mine will say, oh, well, I'm white, so I can have anything. And I'm like, no. So it's not just about the colour, it's about the condition of the hair and the cuticle and like prepping it for that perfect canvas for vivids.
How long would you lighten it for?
Not long, it's more just like a bleach bath kind of thing. So 10 minutes at the basin usually, just to kind of open up, just to damage it really, just to... That's kind of it. You've got to just be like with your client, well, I'm sorry, your hair's just too healthy. Yes, but it won't last as long, so you've got to do it.
She's got her hair short on top, and she has purple, blue, and green.
Yeah, and it doesn't last very long.
Every second time, I do
I mean,
bleach the roots.
Sometimes it's okay if they just want that like nano rinse that's just a couple of washes, then it's fine. But if they are expecting something that's going to last longer, then I would just explain it to them. The best thing you can do is explain it to them, and then they go, oh yeah, and they love it. It's fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if someone's hair is like really over processed and stuff, would you just advise them not to, or it's just going to get pushed out quite?
That is usually the better situation to do. This loves damaged hair. This absolutely loves damaged hair. Sorry, I should repeat that question. I forgot to repeat that question. And it was, if someone's hair is really over-processed and damaged, would you still recommend a direct dye? So yes, I absolutely would. This is really good in those situations where that cuticle is just so opened and damaged, and it's not going to hold a like oxidizing tint as well, because the inside of the hair is just damaged. And here is where I'm going to put the Olaplex into the class, because I love the Olaplex. And what you can do with Olaplex and any Plex actually is put it in your direct dyes. So that's an extra treatment that you can charge for. You can put your number 1 or your number 2 or both in there. So when you're giving your client that direct dye colour, that whole 30 minutes that's in there processing, they're actually getting an Olaplex treatment as well. But it doesn't have to be Olaplex, it could be any Plex, and that's going to help with porosity as well. You could, if you wanted to be even more thorough, possibly do a step 1, step 2 Olaplex treatment before you begin, or some kind of porosity equalizer before you begin, just to help. Because I do notice occasionally if the hair is really bad, you might see some unevenness in the colour because of the condition of the hair. Like these are just like cellophanes. So the canvas that you're putting them on is really important. If your blonde hasn't been lifted very evenly, like if you've got a kind of more orange bit and then a more white bit, and you put this on top because it's a sheer, like a cellophane, that's still going to be there underneath. So they're not going to work miracles. They're just going to kind of, cellophane is the best way that I could explain. Or if I've got unevenness in the canvas a lot of the time, but I don't want to ruin the hair any further, I'll plan what colours I'm putting where. So if I'm not doing one colour like that, if I'm doing like, maybe we've got an orange band here and white blonde ends. Maybe I'm just going to think, what's going to cover that orange? What colour can I put there that's going to kind of work with that? And I'm jumping ahead of myself, but I do get into this in the book. So if it's, I don't know, like that level 7 orange, I can usually get away with putting like this kind of magenta over it, or a purple, or an orange, or a red, those colours that are going to cover it. So I might put that on that band and then melt in a lighter colour. So thinking about what can I do instead of like what can't I do, because sometimes the hair's just had enough. Sometimes it's just going to fall out and you just can't do anything else. So a little bit of working that colour wheel to your advantage comes in there. Yeah, let's move on to the next page. Was there any more questions on that? Nope. Okay, I'm very happy about the amount of questions. It makes me feel better that way, like I'm having a conversation. I'm not just, you know. Yeah, I feel awkward enough as it is.
Can I just ask, with the magenta, the joy one, have you found, I've done like completely through a client's hair, but when I'm drying it off, it actually looks like some parts are brown.
Brown?
Yeah. But
I haven't had that problem. So the question was, with this Joico magenta, have I found that it goes brown in some parts? When you just said that goldy though, I've noticed that occasionally when I have this in the bowl, after I walk away and leave it for a while, it gets a little bit of a gold tint.
That shimmer on the hair. I've done it twice for it.
That is interesting. I haven't noticed that like on the hair, like the hairs. I haven't had that problem. What I have noticed is sometimes it can go a bit too red. Sometimes I feel like it's a bit too red. I like to dilute most of my direct dyes, especially this. I love this, but it's so thick. It is just really, really thick. This brand in particular, Joico, which is good, but I do like to dilute it with conditioner. Does anyone do that? Yes. So they sell clear. You can buy a clear, but if you do go to the back and read the ingredients versus a conditioner, they're very, very, very similar. So usually I will use...
So it doesn't go very far, like...
No, and it's so thick and it takes a long time to spread and you're using a lot more product. So it's not necessarily to change the colour. It depends how much you add. Like if you add a lot of this, then yes, you are going to dilute the colour and make it into more of a pastel. But even if I don't want to change the colour, I might just want to add a couple of squirts in just to give me a creamier consistency, which I can spread. You don't have to use this. Another way of doing that is using a plex, like an Olaplex, but depends on whether they want to pay for that additional service. But yeah, if not, I like to use conditioner to mix.
Are your colours already mixed with conditioner?
Yes, that's a good question, Sam. Thank you. Yes. These, I wanted to show you a bit more of a pastel today with this colour. Because I've got vivids here, I thought today we could do a bit more of a pastel version on this model. So this is probably more than 50% conditioner mix in here to create pastels. I mix everything I do, like hardly anything that I mix comes straight out of a bottle. Maybe just because I'm a control freak and I just like to, you know, feel like I'm creating my own for everything that I do. So nothing that I do comes straight out of a bottle. It's a bit of this and a bit of that and a bit of everything. I like to just create as I go.
So is that one diluted and that one not? Or are they just totally
that is diluted a lot more. Yes, a lot more. When I did this one, I did still dilute it with some conditioner. I'd probably say 60% conditioner, 40% colour for this.
And it's
But,
still that good.
yeah, maybe I should show you how I mix as well before I go today, but I thought I'd mix everything up because of timing, because it does take me a long time to sit there and, you know, so I've pre-mixed everything, but once we've finished the colours and we've emptied those bowls, I'll show you how I actually do mix. Yes, very rainbow.
Do you know the Olaplex as well?
Yes.
Is that just for really damaged hair? And how much do you mix? Is it just what it says on the bottle?
So is the Olaplex just for damaged hair?
Yeah.
I would say no, it's not just for damaged hair, but Olaplex is kind of like your insurance for the hair. It's like when you're bleaching the hair, you're ripping all those bonds out of it. Like, think of the bonds in the hair like the structure of a house, like the scaffolding when we're building a house. It's the structure. So when we're pulling that out when we're bleaching, we're destroying that structure. Olaplex is putting those bonds back in. So when I put Olaplex in I usually put it in my bleach. As the bleach is like ripping those bonds out, the Olaplex is putting more bonds in at the same time. So it's like your insurance. I love it. I could talk about Olaplex. Yeah. So the same one that I'm using in my bleach, which is like when I'm creating the damage, you can do like a standalone Olaplex treatment. I would definitely recommend getting onto their website. They've got like a little course that you can do, but it's not just specifically Olaplex. There's lots of other plexes, but as long as you're using something, it's going to be way, way better for the hair. So when we're using it in the bleach, it's like we're kind of trying to prevent the damage before it starts. When I'm putting it in here, it's more like a treatment, like the damage has already been done and then I'm further treating it.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question? Cool.
Do you put number one?
Sorry.
Like number one in the bleach, and then do you put number one in the colour as well, or do you just put number two?
Usually I don't put number one in the colour. I don't feel I need to, unless someone's hair is like... I just usually use conditioner in the colour. That's just what you can do if you really want to go that extra step for someone. Like if you want to give them an extra treatment, if you're really worried that their hair is. I don't do that very often. It's just something that you can do.
Yeah.
Yes.
What do you charge to all the Olaplex to do adding to?
I think the going rate for Olaplex in salons is $60 to $80 extra. I'm a bit different though. I charge hourly and everything's sort of included. Well, not everything. At the moment I'm charging $70 an hour plus product on top. So average is kind of between $300 and $400. So it might be between $40 and $60 on top I put for product. That's just what works better for me, is to just charge an hourly instead of a set price, because I do just find sometimes in previous, if I've had a price list, the client has tried to dictate the price and so
For that reason.
I do what I do. Anything else? So next I have got the colour wheel here, and I just can't stress the importance of this enough. Like, I think it's very commonly overlooked, and we think of the colour wheel when we're trying to counteract colours, and it's not necessarily just about looking at counteracting colours. It's looking at colours that are kind of next to colours and using it with placement. Like when I do a rainbow, I'll usually follow the colour wheel, and it's such a simple thing, but it's so commonly overlooked. A lot of the time we'll just mix up rainbow colours and we'll just kind of put them in there, and it looks good, but it doesn't flow like a rainbow. Like, I'll use this as an example. If you look closely, the colours flow because when I put them in, I follow the colour wheel a lot of the time. And if you do get bleeding, which sometimes is just unavoidable, you're going to get a bit of bleeding. If my pink bleeds into my orange, it's okay. If my orange bleeds into my yellow, if my yellow bleeds into, it's okay because they're right next to each other. So that little bit of bleeding, it's okay. In fact, sometimes it's good because it helps you with that transition with the blend. And I like to have this with me, like, at all times. Have it at your mixing station. Just keep it with you, because I can tell you, like, I still struggle with my left and right. I know them, but if I'm in the car and I'm not thinking, it's so easy for me. And this is like that. So don't feel bad that you have to look at it. It's not like, oh, I should know this. Like, I'm very visual. I like to see things. And if you asked me and I was off guard, just off the top of my head, like, what is the underlining pigment of something, or what colour counteracts orange, I might just be like, but that's okay. Like, I'm aware of it, and I take that moment and I think, and I go slow, and I'm not putting myself under stress. I'll take as long as I need, but it does help to have that visual reminder, especially where I think a lot of hairdressers are quite visual. That's why I'm like diagrams, booklets, like, because that's how I learn. So that's how I teach.